Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Ryan Tamson with us. Ryan is the ex-founder at Arona. He's mostly a podcaster nowadays, a speaker and educator. He's helping entrepreneurs view and run their company like a financial asset, which is fascinating to me. This podcast is brought to you by my podcasting company. It's called podper.com. If you want to start or scale a pod, it's also brought by Qual Mind. If you are a biohacker, if you love taking nootropics for enhanced cognitive performances, you can go to neurohacker.com and try Qual Mind. I take their caffeine version. Ryan, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
I'm interested in those pills.
Yeah, they're good. My first startup was actually a nootropic. I had to
That's
bring that
awesome.
one down, but these guys, they're the shit.
That's awesome, man. I've never tried one of those. I've been doing my same workout routine for 18 years, man. So like it's just a cup of coffee. It's just what I'm doing these days. Um, so Charles, well, yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up in an entrepreneur household, man, and watched my dad scale our family business from 0 to 21 million. Worked in and out of the business, started in '09 with 115 employees. I helped them turn around the business from losing about $1 million that year to turning it around and then selling it in 2014 for an eight-figure sale. Loads of stuff I wish I would have known, which started my 10-year journey. So it's been effectively 10 years since we sold. And I started a podcast. I've started three companies from finance to consulting to coaching education businesses. And kind of the theme and the thread has been the podcast. And it's kind of this big idea of, I mean, honestly, as an entrepreneur, I think we all want independence and we need enough sustainable cash flow from our company that's not swallowing us up alive. Hopefully, we got the independence that we want from our company.
There you go. Well, let's start with the obvious. Your dad was a beast. What did you learn from him growing up?
He's a beast. I could kick the shit out of him now. No, I'm just kidding. We're really good friends. He just moved down the road and we're working together again. One of my best friends and my dad, he barely graduated high school and went to 90 days of college, and he said he ran out of beer and weed money, so he had to go start selling shit. And so he started off in calling cards and then credit card machines. And Charles, what happened was when I was going to school, like when I was a kid, like I got the play-by-play every night at 9 o'clock, watching him grow the company. And so that's where I became a business junkie. Is like, what happened today? As I was a young kid. And what I learned from him, kind of that's like ingrained in my operating system, is he's like, because a lot of self-talk for entrepreneurs of like, he's like, okay, I could barely get out of school, and as long as you can sell and provide value to the world, you can kick ass in this place. And so that's kind of just been my deal from day one of like understand what the needs are, figure out how to provide value, and hopefully capitalism will reward you in return.
And you have kids yourself. How can I teach my kids when I have them about entrepreneurship without like being helicopter dad, always like business, business, business? Like, how can I still motivate them to start their own business without imposing it on them?
Oh, interesting, man. Yeah, I got 7.5-year-old twins, twin girls. And so I actually just in the last 6 months have played Monopoly with them twice. So there's one way, but I got a funny story for you, Charles, that I think will resonate with you. So like me and my family, I'm not big on flashy things. Like I just want to have a good life with time, a freedom of time, live healthy, have the means to do whatever I want. So obviously income and wealth is tied to the ability to do that. But so my daughter's like, they hear my mantra all the time is I just don't want anyone to tell me what to do. And they know as long as they're in my household, I mean, I tell them what to do, but as a grown up, I said like the whole goal is that we get to do what we want. But we know there are consequences. So what I've done, Charles, and I don't know if it's working or not, it seems to be, but like I don't tell them what to do a lot. I mean, let me rephrase that. I tell them what to do when it's obvious, like obvious stuff. But like I do a lot more of like, if you do this, these are the three things that could happen. If it's an appropriate amount where I'm not telling them what to do because it's just normal parenting stuff, but it's like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and then I watch their decision making skills. And like long story short, is I was Me and my wife and my two daughters were on my way to my dad's, and my God, my daughters just playing the would you rather have pink eye or strep throat, or they're gonna go back and forth. And then Everly looks at Zoe and she goes, would you rather be rich or be free? And Zoe goes, be free, obviously. And it was just like, damn. So like I think that they're realizing that there's only certain ways to get that level of freedom. And they've started lemonade stand and kind of all the typical stuff, but trying to ingrain on them that there's a reason to be an entrepreneur, not just forcing them to be one.
Then later on in your life, after your dad's built that behemoth of a business, you started working with your dad. I must have guessed it was not always easy, but you helped him exit out of that business. You helped him sell his business. How was that process, and how did you maintain the relationship intact? Because I also have a dad entrepreneur, and it's not always been easy.
He just called what we were talking to. It was a son of a bitch, man. My dad and I are best friends, but we're like oil and water at the same time. And like I swore on my grave I'd never go work for him because like I mean, he taught me to have a lot of opinions and to go do what I want. And so like having both of us in the same room, we had someone recently last week we're on a call with, and they're like, man, I've never been on a call with the Tansoms before. And the air just sucks out of the room. And so it was tough. And honestly, Charles, I get a stomach ache of the things I probably want. I get a stomach ache of the things I did that I probably wouldn't do now, given my younger age back then in my early 20s. I'm in upper 30s now. And it was tough. Honestly, I don't know if there's a good way to say it. I tried to quit 3 times, and it was like the duty of the family and trying to keep, it would have been different if the business would have been healthy and I would not. I mean, we kind of went through this whole turnaround where it kind of became my baby. I had hired and fired 60 some people, the new branding, and a lot of that had been mine. And if I would have walked out, it would have been so dysfunctional. I don't know. So it was just like the forced conversations and knowing that I always loved him and that I don't know. It's tough.
It
That's a
is really
clear
hard.
answer.
Yeah, and I started my first nootropic business I was telling you about with one of my best friends, and we had to put the key in the door of that one. We didn't even exit, it was a hard loss. We
Oh,
were definitely in the red, and yeah, that definitely stained the relationship. And that was really hurtful for me, like went to his wedding. He didn't even have me as a best man, and I was like, I had to talk about that to my psychotherapist. So
yeah.
yeah, it's super hard when you mix like friendships and love with business. I don't have a business with my wife mostly for that reason. I think we're not compatible to work together also. And there's always these dynamics, right? Like, hey, don't tell me what to do, we're
Oh,
both
it's
opinionated
amen.
people.
Well, amen. And you know what? Couple comments on that because I think what you just hit on is one of the hardest parts about entrepreneurship. Like I've had 1,500 entrepreneurs go through my training programs and from a couple million to a couple hundred million in revenue. And I bet you 80% of them have partners, Charles. So like a lot of people do, whether it's spouses or families or buddies or whatever it is, like the integrator, visionary, whatever kind of combination. And I've been through three businesses over the last 10 years myself. So I went through the whole situation with my dad. And like, I guess it took me a lot of times to learn. And some of them went okay, some of them didn't go so okay. And the thing that I've learned, and this is what I've built with my material, because I'm in the process of my book and then starting the new version of the podcast. And it's this understanding that we have our W-2 job. It's this concept of our W-2 job, our leadership role, Charles, and then we've got this asset. And there are two different hats that we have. And as entrepreneurs that are owner operators, a lot of that gets commingled because it's like we're waking up and we've got our income that's coming from our job and our labor. And so it's difficult to split these two situations where when you have a company, like if you have a job, you should be getting a fair market wage for your job. You know what I mean? Like as an entrepreneur, and a lot of times you'll reduce your wage to invest for growth. And that's why it gets so commingled. But if we separate them, say, okay, well, as an owner of an asset, we should only care about how much in distributions do we get today and what's the trade-off between taking money out of the company and reinvesting it back into the company. And how does that impact the long-term equity valuation of the company? That's all private equity does, and that's all public companies do. But as owner operators, it gets all commingled, which is where then it makes it more difficult for owners who are also both working in the business, because there's like four different hats that everybody should be wearing. And instead, I think we people should separate their job from their asset and say, okay, well, what roles are we all wearing? Because like that conflict generally is a result of people not clarifying all of that stuff.
Right, 100%. But what came to my mind is that, yeah, we're human and we play games, we have emotions, and then it's, so I did this for you, you owe me that now. And yeah, we can't help it, it seems. But talking to so many CEOs on your side, coaching them, being a speaker at various events, what struggles have you seen in running businesses other than the partnership stuff? Like, what is hard, in your opinion, in business?
That concept is one of the most eye-opening ones for people, because let's say you and I are partners, Charles, and then I'll add to this concept. Okay, so what do you do, dude, and what do I do? Like, what are you getting paid for from your? If we're each getting a W-2 income, what are we gonna be doing? Do we like that? Are we skilled at that? And if you suck at your job, just because you own this company doesn't mean you get a job, right? Like all the shareholders of public companies are like, oh, I own part of Apple, so I'm going to come in and sit down on the development team. It's like, no, you own the equity. And so like I think there's that, like we have to understand that that's a thing. And yes, it's okay to commingle this, but like it's like, okay, what do you and I each do? Are we both good at those things? And I just because you owe me and I owe you doesn't mean you just get a job and a W-2 paycheck, even if you suck at your job. And so like we have to have that. And then there's the, okay, what are the owners? So Charles, if you and I own this company together, say, okay, so if we're both, let's say we're both making 100 grand, like capable of at least cash flowing our salary. So you and I both making 100 grand and the company's making more profits than that. What are we going to do with them? Are we like, I got twin daughters. Like, do I need more money today? So I would rather take the extra 100 grand in profit and split it. But if you don't need it, you're like, no, I want to grow for long-term value. So there's this whole like effed up dynamic that people have to clarify. The hardest part is people need to say, what's our goal? And it's not revenue in our K1 and net income. And that's what everybody does. It's like, but like if we shift our goal from revenue and net income to say, no, if Charles, if you and I have an extra 100 grand to reinvest this year, are we going to put it into sales, product, SEO, people? Okay, what's our decision tree? And then what is the reinvestment return that we're looking for? Is our company worth 1 million right now? And we want it to be worth, not revenue. And so there's this, I'd say that to sum it all up, it's the W-2 versus ownership. And then with that ownership, what is owners' goals? Private equity does this all the time, Charles. And like we as owner operators don't understand that like it's what is the target equity valuation of this company and how are we going to fund that growth and how does it impact Charles and Ryan's income?
100%. Yeah, I guess other than the financial side and the finding a partner side, what I've seen that is hard is businesses go to market. Yeah, sure, like people should focus on products nowadays and really offer the best thing possible to the market. Dissect what their potential customer wants, their pain points, and so forth. But go to market wise, what strategies have you seen working in this market?
I think this is right up your alley, man. Like it, so I started, I'll kind of give you my take and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. We can have a dialogue about it. Is like, so I started in sales, man. Like, but that's how the family business was. 400 phone calls, 15 appointments, 7 net news, 5 proposals, 3 closes, 40 grand in revenue every month. I mean, like, we had 22 salespeople that just did that. And that was really, I mean, for context, again, that was from 1997 till we sold in 2014. But the last 10 years of that, the internet was changing a lot of stuff. And like, I think about it, Charles, now, and it's a holistic go to market strategy. Like, what pain points do you solve for your clients? right? Like, what are you actually solving? Don't not about you. It's the whole story brand messaging thing. Like, what problems do you solve? Bob Mesta from I don't know if you ever heard of him, but demand side selling, fantastic. He was jobs to be done with God, Christensen. Can't remember it. Anyways, it's about okay, like understanding what are you solving for your client, and then building like a customer journey. It's like, okay, is it a combination of podcasting, ads, websites, trade shows, like webinar? Like, what is it that how does your client buy? Whether it's, if it's B2B, it's different than B2C. I've watched people trying to implement B2C strategies in their B2B consulting firm. It's like, well, don't do that. So like it's understanding that customer journey and then saying how much is it going to cost and how long does it take to acquire that customer? And I think, there's a lot we can unpack there, but I think honestly, if you were to say, for myself, one of the most important things I think anybody does is build an actual brand that has a voice to their customer. I mean, like, in whether you sell pools or HVAC or SEO or whatever, building a reputation where someone can realize that you're a normal person, that they trust you, then they're going to buy. As long as then you're working with them or exposing that in the right way. Because for me, I'll just speak from myself as a consumer from multiple different, on business services and or consumer goods. I'm sick and tired of getting screwed. And I just want to buy some stuff and buy services or products from people that are actually telling the truth and having good quality. And it's very difficult to find that.
Right. What about podcasting as a market research machine or a lead gen machine? How do you use podcasting nowadays, and why are you so bullish on it?
I don't know what my life could look like without podcasting. I started it, I've 400 episodes in now. And even though my partnership buyout, they're going to be keeping the RSS feed. I've built an insane network. I built a couple businesses. Well, there was three businesses that a couple of them hit a million plus in revenue while I was doing my podcast. And it was like, well, I'm going to interview these people. Like, it was that whether it's Gino Wickman or the Inc. magazine editor, Bo Burlingham, I then spoke at his keynote. And then it's just like it's this ecosystem flywheel that like I can't see my life differently or without it because I interviewed the people I wanted to learn from. Then I ended up speaking on stages with them. Then I ended up building friendships out of it. Then I ended up building businesses out of it. Then I learned about the marketplace a little bit better out of it. And so like that's me, but I think about like a client of mine in the old business who has home services company. You don't know if you know Tommy Mello. He's a home services expert. He's an awesome dude. And he's built himself a nationwide empire, the garage door business. And it's just because of casting, not just, okay, I shouldn't say that because he's got the grit and the execution behind it. But like, it's a great way to build relationships, even if no one else is tuning in.
It's amazing. Yeah. Then the authority, the learning, growing your network, right? And if you do things right, you'll get also sponsors, you got partnerships, plus YouTube's paying you. So it's pretty much of a no-brainer, and it's aligned with this AI future we're heading in. For example, I'm using all the content from my podcast to feed my Charles GPT and have
Mhm.
him respond just like me and my guest, which is pretty amazing. Um, I want to ask, last but not least, your day-to-day routine. I've checked your LinkedIn, or was it your Insta? I saw like six or yeah, there was six workout journals, but you've been working out for like 15 plus years. What's your day-to-day routine like? How do you optimize that brain of yours? How do you make sure you're always in that optimal state?
So I'll answer this, and then I just want to put a caveat there that one of my biggest pet peeves, Charles, is when I go online to social media stuff and people just should each other. You should do this. You should do that. You should do ice plunges and saunas and this. So I'll tell you my routine, but I want to tell you why I do it, which is the most important part. I'm scared to death of my freaking crazy brain and the which a lot of people, psychologists called it the shadow self. I'm scared shitless of what I could be if I didn't do this. Okay. Like, because I'm a dopamine junkie. I would like I would take the easy way out had I not trapped myself into good habits. So this is not for anybody else other than myself. So that way I can be a good person, good father, and good husband. So it went like it started back. I'll give you kind of how it started, then I'll give you the cliff note of what it is. So started back when I was 19, in between college or freshman and sophomore year. I had hair down to here, earrings. I was smoking and drinking like a pile. And then I went and got an internship at the family business, and I went and cold call. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. And I'm going to be told I'm an idiot all day long by everybody else. So I started working out. And so pretty much since then, I've just done what I now understand that James Clear calls habit stacking. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing until I read his book. But now my morning routine is I wake up around 5:15, 5:30. Then I meditate for 20 minutes doing transcendental meditation. Just stacked that on about 3.5 years ago. I wasn't doing that prior. And then so I meditate, then I journal for about 10, 15 minutes while I drink my coffee and have my smoothie. Then I lift for an hour, and then I do 30 minutes of cardio. And I do that every morning, and I've done that every morning so I lift 5 days a week and have for 18 years. And I do cardio about 6 to 7 days a week. And over the years, I've stopped. I mean, I stopped drinking in 2020, then I introduced it again, then I quit again. So I'm sober. The whole thing, dude, is I'm just like, I'm addicted to dopamine, so I might as well get it the right way than all the horrific ways. So like it's just been this whole like recalibration of the dopamine system over years. Um, yeah.
I'm the same. So grew up first on drugs and alcohol as a teenager, then went into video games pretty hard, like World of Warcraft addict and so forth. So always been seeking that dopamine, and even stuff nowadays like Netflix is to be avoided, like these teleseries. Like this weekend I just bought a TV, right? And I didn't even buy it for me because I'm like opposed to the idea of TVs. And I started watching Netflix, and next thing I knew, I was like two series deep, into that
Yeah,
new
dude.
series about that Charlie Crocker. It's like a real estate mogul. It's pretty good, actually. But yeah, I'll stop fucking watching that because it's just messing up with my brain.
Oh,
But
dude, now that I've like taken everything out, Charles, it's like how much goddamn coffee can I drink every morning before 10? And then how many Zyn packets can I have a day? And I'm like, this is just like I can't not. And like and so I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are like that, Charles, is what I've realized. And I think that's when I don't know, man. Like I'm not a big social media guy either. Like I'll go on Twitter for some actual like trying to find the truth of a lot of shit these days. But like, and then YouTube, watching podcasts and listening to books is really where I spend my time. But like I think like if and this goes back to podcasting, it's people building a relationship with their host and then listening to them. It's like, hey, life's freaking hard, right? And like we're all trying really hard. And like, but here's what's working for me. But if I go on and it's like everybody just shoulds each other, you should do this, you should do this. Like, well, says who? Like, what did you do that tells me what to do? And so I think it's more of like, this is what I did. These were my challenges. Here's how it's helping. Take or leave it.
of that, I mean, what is there more to say? Thanks for the knowledge drop today. Where can people find out more about you, Ryan?
Go to my LinkedIn at the moment. I am waiting. I'm in the process of spinning up my ryantansom.com website. That's not up yet, but LinkedIn or Twitter is a good place to find me right now. I do have a podcast if people wanted to actually, so it's still out there. My partners will be keeping it out there, I think, for a while. It's Intentional Growth. It's on all the normal players. It's got 393 episodes on there. And then my personal YouTube channel is a good place, but I'll be kind of spinning everything up in the next 3 or so months.